look back, at least back to the time of the Reformation or better, the minister was the one who educated the children in catechism and maybe even was the school teacher in town. So that, you know, we have we see a topsy-turvy system now, and all, because we used to have private education prior to the 1800s with government schools coming into play, and people forget that we had the New England Primer, we had the McGuffey Readers, we had textbooks that taught the Bible and taught things, and the citizenry was much more educated in the time of George Washington or the 1600s than they are today.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, you read some of those early writings, and it's phenomenal in terms of how much they knew at the time and how well they expressed themselves. There's just no comparison today. And one of the goals I'm reading in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers, The Specter of Communism is published by the Epoch Times. And it's not a Christian approach, but it does a lot to talk about what communism does, and it shares much that a Christian would rejoice in. But anyway, it talks about how communism is trying to dumb down the American student so that they are worthless, and you get to a point where you have a conversation with some of these kids and they have no idea about anything. It's like Water's World, going out into the beach and interviewing kids, and who's George Washington, who's Benjamin Franklin? I don't know. I have no idea who these people are.
Somebody I saw on Facebook was interviewing people and saying, what do we celebrate Easter? What's Easter for? And I mean, it was amazing. People had no idea. I don't even know what Easter is, one guy said. Wow. Never heard of it before. Wow. And he had a friend standing next to him. No, he says, you know what Easter I mean, it's amazing what people don't know.
Yeah.
And, high schoolers, college-age students especially.
Yeah, our kids are being dumbed down, and they're not able to think rationally. And indeed, rational thought is white supremacist thinking. It's anti-color and so forth. So, I mean, this is going to destroy the educational system. You can't teach math, you can't teach proper science because you've destroyed rationality. And then we've got people saying that mothers are birthing persons, and men
can have babies.
Yeah, men can have babies. I mean, is this the insanity these people need to be put in a little white room,
Mm-hmm. The other thing is the obvious direct correlation between, as we become more immoral, shootings, suicides from transgenders or transjaggers, as Biden would say. It's absolutely blatantly obvious as we become more immoral as a country. All these things pick up because they didn't exist before. Basically, I mean, I don't know how. It doesn't take any. I mean, a second grader could probably see that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like what. There's obviously some issues that are not related to anything else but this problem. The education system having probably already been destroyed, if it's not pretty close to total devastation. But these things are so obvious. But still, they take that and they spin it to some other agenda they have or some other thing they want to accomplish and use it they weaponize it. Very, very sad.
It'd be nice if there was some sort of lawsuit that could go to the Supreme Court and dismantle much of the public school system. Break it down so that federal government doesn't have control of it. It's reduced to local communities. And so you break down the National Educational Association, the NEA, break down their control, the teachers' unions, just break this stuff down, bring it down to the local level.
The teachers' union would be a great place, because if they can just bring the cases to light of how much cover up the teachers' union has done for criminals in the education system, I mean, a small percentage of the cases should be able to wipe them out. It's just terrible what they do. They enable these teachers to get away. Not all. There's good teachers for sure, but there's some very, very bad ones, and they're just getting away with, I mean, murder. I mean,
well, that's not going to happen overnight, I'm sure.
be great for anything.
I'm the product of public education. I never went to a Christian school until I went to Clearwater Christian College. And I don't know how many things I learned or was subjected to in the 13 years from kindergarten to 12th grade that were different from what I was being educated by in my church or in my home. But I'm sure, there were umpteen times that I heard things or experienced things that in public school that were godless, and all. And it's only God's grace that, I made a profession of faith at 5 years of age.
Wow.
But but I didn't get a lot of support in that by going to school, that's for sure. Even though I did have a principal in high school who was a Baptist man, and he had prayer every day, and I think truly knew the Lord, and he tried to control things as best he could when Madeline Murray O'Hare and that kind of thing started to come up. So, but I don't know why it didn't hit me more, but until I was married, really, about the time I was married, I started realizing that public education wasn't the way to go.
Well, I had 16 years Catholic education, and I still came out a pagan because God had not yet done, the Holy Spirit had not yet, it wasn't God's timing yet to do the work of regeneration. So it was only later that I was saved, but having that education in the religious schools didn't make me a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you were public or private, and it's again, it comes down to the work of the Holy Spirit, of course. But if we only had, going back a little bit, if we only had an honest media expose these things about the NEA and everything else, because people only know what they are told. So if the media was honest and if the media had anything resembling a Christian perspective, at least we would be able to expose these things, and they could show how it is immoral. But they don't. They perpetuate it. So that's, and because they're coming out of beginning colleges. So, that's what you can expect.
Yeah. Another amazing thing is it only takes a handful of bad ones. I can remember several really good teachers. I remember a second grade teacher, Miss Sattler. She taught very, very good, math and writing and cursive writing, and insisted on good, discipline, right? And, there was some good ones. It only takes a handful of mentally ill, immoral, crazy socialist teachers that they're you might have 100 teachers, and if you have 2 or 3 of these crazy ones, they're up front all the time. They're the first one in the thing. They're the loudest. I would just begin to wonder, like, if we just told them, sit down and shut up. We don't want to hear you. You're not right, and you need to go get well. And we're not going to let you interrupt us anymore. It has to stop now. And that's it. what would happen then? Of course, we would end up in jail as in solitary confinement for 15 years.
Terrorist you.
But still, I mean, it's only a handful. I'd hate to punch them all together. Sometimes I find myself doing that, but it's just not the truth. There are some good ones. There's many good ones, but boy, the ones that are bad are really bad. That's the problem. And for some reason, the Democrats seem to cater to them, for whatever their immoral reasons are, their own agendas. But very, very sad to see. It doesn't have to be that way. And the kids are the ones suffering. And us paying taxes for nothing, too, maybe. But we could put that money to better use, maybe the economy, if we had a real president. But
I think President Trump and his administration tried to do something with the 1776 project written in response to the 1619 project that the New York Times put out. And it was advocating for a patriotic American education experience. So kids are not being taught to hate their country, but are taught the benefits, or at least have an objective view of what took place, and not an unbalanced socialistic point of view. I think they need to identify socialism as an enemy to the American people and root it out throughout the government and throughout the educational system. Just root it out. And I don't know if they're going to have the stomach to do it or the ability to do it at this point. But anyway.
Well, we let into this country all kinds of enemies of this country.
Yeah.
And it's gotten worse since the president's been in office. I mean, how many people are coming across the border who are subversive to our country?
Yeah.
We have no idea. We have no idea. And
guns.
immigration laws exist for a reason.
Then they come in, then the press and the Democrats say that they make them victims. So they're victims. So, I mean, the Democrat Party has gone from a party that wants to show compassion to the other class to making the other class martyrs and victims, and deifying them. But that's what it's all. That we're about not having. We're about having equality. It's not. It's no longer compassion. They're not. I don't believe they're motivated by compassion anymore.
No. They're following the Marxist framework, where society is divided up into the oppressors and the oppressed. So the victims are the oppressed, and the oppressors are identified as the white Christian males who dominate society, and the white Christian community basically that dominates things. And so the people of color, people of different experiences need to throw off the dominant culture, and they will use violence if necessary to do that, to promote their point of view. And we may be getting into more violence as time goes on.
It's like they have their badge of honor of all their victimizations.
Yeah.
I'm a victim of this and this and this, and I'm oppressed here, and all these things.
That's intersectionality. It's the idea, well, you're a black woman, gay. So you got three things going against you right away. So you are oppressed 3 times. And they call that intersectionality, where you got all these different kinds of victimization levels in your life, and all that kind of adds up. And so I guess the more victimization levels you've got, the more significant.
The higher up you are on the political identity there.
Yeah, that's right.
So you get like one of those guys with all the medals all along the whole thing. That's the one who wins. Whoever has the most.
I'm a black female gay person who wants to be a transgender, and
you can go on and on and figure out all that nonsense, and you have there's probably about 30 or probably 300 or 400 different things you could be a victim of.
Yeah,
right.
You could be the greatest victim on the planet.
Right. You want to know, how can you accord any kind of special privilege or honor to say because you're a woman, but you can't define what a woman is.
Or if you're a pregnant man now, that could be very bad.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. Yeah. So, yeah, boy. You see that WHO is saying there's more than two genders now. The World Health Organization is it's like
just sick.
It is right. Yeah.
What's the word I used to as a kid? Goofy. They're goofy. Like just stop being goofy. Come on, we got to get real here. We got
right.
Let's talk about happiness and joy of living through Christ. Stop being goofy. Get that stuff out of here.
They just tell a lie over and over again, and then people buy it eventually. So you get all the corporate businesses coming down on their people saying you got to respect gay rights, and then you got to respect the transgender, and then you got to put women's products in the male bathrooms and stuff. You know, it just gets spread throughout the culture in every way, and then next thing you know, everybody else is mouthing these things because they're dumbed down, and that's supposedly the right way to do things today, and they just follow along.
And it's like, who do they get mad at? They get mad at the regular, normal, moral father who gets very upset when some man goes into the bathroom with his daughter.
Yeah.
He's the one wrong, according to them. Like, talk about backwards, the poor guy. I feel so bad for men in that situation.
Oh, man, can you imagine?
No, I couldn't even think
your
about it.
Your daughter's in the sports team, and there's a guy in the shower with her, that self-identifies as a woman today, and he goes into the shower with her.
Well, Governor Wolf just vetoed the bill that would ban men from competing in women's sports. He vetoed that. He said that's hatred.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Transphobia.
Yeah.
And so it's like these people have to be voted out of office. They're crazy. They're goofy, right?
Goofy, yeah.
Shouldn't they just be? I mean, you would think that that's almost grounds. They can't possibly be labeled as mentally stable to think that.
Yeah.
How could a person? I mean, like, couldn't two psychiatrists just write a letter and say, "Look, this guy's nuts. He's got to come. He can't be leading the state."
Yeah.
He thinks that men can compete in women's sports. That's so absurd. Think about it.
Yeah.
Where is the common sense? How's that fair to women? Especially, I really feel for the women. Here comes this man is going to take away all their joy of camaraderie and competing together. And
I can't wait till they let men compete in women's wrestling.
Boom.
250-pound man against a 120-pound woman. Sumo wrestlers against the best the women can produce.
Wow. Yeah, you would. Yeah, really. They're like 400 pounds or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.